Tuned into Recovery TV, the voice of hope, with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Discussions and information on addiction and mental health issues. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome to another edition of Recovery TV. This is my 100th show today, and my guest is Sarah Hogan from AdCare, because they are the prime sponsor. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for what you do, but I want to tell my viewers about Narcan. Take it, put it in your purse, leave it in your car, take it out at night. This saves lives. We're losing too many young folks for overdoses. This will save it. Narcan. Get it. Need it. Right now. Go and get it. Welcome, Sarah. Thank you for joining us today. So tell my viewers about AdCare and what AdCare does, where it's located, how many beds. I hear you have new construction. Tell me what's going on.
Sure. So AdCare is currently a 59-bed inpatient detox and rehabilitation program. It's located in North Kingstown on Tower Hill Road, right off Route 1. We offer 23 detox beds, 36 residential beds, and then we have 3 beds that are dedicated to what's called crisis stabilization. So that would be for an individual who is still primarily substance use but needs more acute mental health care as well.
Mm-hmm. 18 and over?
Yep, we accept male, female, 18 and older. Our units are all co-ed units, but separated by hallways, so we don't room males and females together, so individual rooms. They share a room with one roommate, but they have a bathroom in their room. They each have their own bed, their own storage, and then we have multiple groups throughout the day, 6 groups, all throughout the day, individual sessions, a psychiatrist and a medical doctor as well.
What do your groups consist of?
So they're primarily focused on psychoeducation, but we do 12-step based groups. We have commitments come in every night at 7 p.m. from AA, NA. We'll bring Smart Recovery in as well. But we do 12-step based psychoeducational groups, process groups. We talk about coping skills, relapse prevention, CBT, DBT, evidence-based practices.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you get a lot of people, once they leave, come back?
We do, yeah. Unfortunately, you know, you've heard it said before, relapse is part of recovery, you know, so we do see them come back, but I love when they come back, right? Because at least they made it back. Unfortunately, this addiction is killing too many individuals, you know, this disease. And so when they make it back, I welcome them back, and we'll do it all over again and as many times as we need to.
Yeah. You know, one of the other things, too, has been a pet peeve of mine for a number of years is the lack of beds. So you are putting on an addition as we speak?
We are. I mean, we know that there is an opioid epidemic right now. The need for beds are so great. So we're actually adding on an additional 18 beds, so an additional unit with 18 beds. And then we have 3 additional beds that we're adding to the already built units. So we're going to go from 59 to 80 beds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's expected to be complete, and we should have a grand opening January 2025.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Now, where are you located?
We are in North Kingstown, Rhode Island. Our address is 1950 Tower Hill Road in North Kingstown, Rhode Island. Easy access right off Route 1.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this question, because it's been brought to my attention a couple of times. Can people just pull in the driveway and knock on the door and say, can I get an assessment? I mean, I need treatment.
No, not usually. We have a whole screening process. So best way to reach us, simply calling 1-800-ALCOHOL. That will take them to an individual who will do a screening. We'll ask all the questions we need to ask, and then we'll turn that over to the medical team for review. The medical team will review it, and if appropriate, we can set up the admission. We also have drivers, so we're able to pick people up.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
Great.
within a 3-hour radius, we can send a driver out.
3-hour radius?
Yeah.
Oh, Rhode Island's so small, you should be able to pick up quite a few people then.
Yeah. But we can also help individuals in Massachusetts and Connecticut as well, so the
That's
New
great.
England area. So we'll send our drivers out 3 hours one way. So
You know, I got to tell you, I've been to AdCare a number of times, and the grounds are absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. You have wildlife running around, and you know, it's quaint, it's quiet. I'm sure it's not quiet now with all the construction, but when the construction is complete, it's very quiet and quaint. So, you know, what you see is what you get. You know, and I'm sure you have all this stuff on the website, correct?
we do.
And the website address is?
www.adcare.com.
Very good. Now, I got to ask you a question about food. And I know you're not Frank Taranova, but I'm going to ask you about food. When you're in the facility, you get 3 meals a day plus snacks. Is that accurate?
It
to
is.
say?
Yes.
Okay. And everything's covered, whatever, if you have food allergies or anything like that, it's...
Yeah, so
taken
during the
care of.
intake process, we ask about allergies, and then we have a dietary form that goes to our kitchen. So they'll track, we can do vegetarian diets, diabetic diets, we can accommodate any food allergies. And we get breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the cafeteria. And then there are snacks on the unit throughout the day should you get hungry, and then we deliver a nighttime snack around 8 p.m. But our detox unit remains on the unit, so we actually bring dinner to them just because we want to make sure they're safe and with nurses. And then our residential units get to eat in the cafeteria. So they get to leave the units and go outside and then eat in the cafeteria and break a little bit of the programming throughout the day.
And what about activities? What kind of activities do you have?
So
for your
we have
clients?
yoga, meditation, acupuncture. We also do, during the summer, we open up our Walk of Hope. So we are surrounded by woods, and we have a beautiful area in the woods that we've carved out to have a nature walk. So that's open.
Yep.
And we tend to have cookouts during the summer for the patients that are there, and just do events throughout the summer months. The winter's harder, you know, it's cold in New England.
Yeah,
but
and I know from our conversations, you're relatively new in leading AdCare in Rhode Island.
Yes.
As someone who's just been thrust into this position, what are you seeing coming into the doors of AdCare? Are you seeing more alcohol than opioids? Are you seeing more illicit drugs? Are you seeing, what are you seeing?
Yeah. So we're seeing probably about a 50-50 mix right now between alcohol and opiates for admissions. That change happened, I think, for what I saw during COVID. We were always seeing more opioid admissions. And then when COVID happened and people stayed home, I think that isolation increased the alcohol use, in my opinion. And so now we're about a 50-50 mix. But right now what we're dealing with that we're seeing more and more of are these pressed pills. So individuals are buying benzos on the street that may be pressed and have fentanyl in them, and they're not even knowing that they're taking fentanyl, and they're coming in and they're testing positive for opioids, or unfortunately not even making it to treatment because they don't know what's in the pills on the street. So the pressed pills we're seeing a lot of right now.
And I want to talk more about that when we come back. We got to take a break.
Okay.
You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. We'll be right back with Sarah Hogan from AdCare right after this.
Now, back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. Sarah Hogan is in the house, and Sarah is the boss, the big boss now down at AdCare. So welcome, Sarah, and thank you for joining us today. And thank you for being the primary sponsor. This is my 100th show, which is, I can't believe it's my 100th show. But thank you for AdCare, and thank you for all you do. I would greatly appreciate that. And we were talking a little bit about the folks down at AdCare, and talking about, I want to talk about staff. Doctor on staff.
Yes.
How many nurses on staff?
Ooh. Total or per day?
Per day. Oh, per day.
We have about 5 per day, so
5 per day.
2 per unit usually.
Yep.
Yep.
Clinicians?
Yep. We have about 11 to 13 per day.
Wow.
Yep.
So, AdCare as a whole, I know they have the hospital in Worcester, correct?
Yep.
With people that have medical issues that can deal with their potential issues with substances and mental health. Also with like diabetes, heart conditions, and all that.
Yeah.
You know, one of my big things is that when a client comes into AdCare, as we spoke about this before, not knowing what John is going to AdCare and what's wrong with John that you don't know about, and that John has medical conditions that I may not want to reveal to you. That's a dangerous situation. So now we're able to get hooked up with an organization where we can put John's name in the computer and we can see what's wrong with John. A lot better treatment-wise than we had before.
Yeah.
Which I was pleasantly surprised that we could do something like that. Because there was a lot of problems when you go in to treat somebody for opioid use and you don't know that he's either got diabetes or he's got a heart condition.
Yeah.
Is that working out okay for AdCare?
It is, yeah. You know, the congruency for care. You know, sometimes individuals don't mean to not report it, but think about the environment that we're working in, right? A lot of individuals are under the influence when they arrive to treatment.
Right.
So they may not even remember to report something that is very important to report. So having that access and the congruency to be able to look into it and get that information is fantastic. So it is helpful.
You know, before you assumed this position, you and I had a number of conversations during the week where someone would call a leadership council and I had to get them over to AdCare. But tell me about when folks get on the phone to do an assessment. What can they expect on that assessment?
So we try and keep it as brief as possible, but we also try to ask as many questions as we can in that conversation.
Right.
So we really have to build a full picture and a full story of the person before we know if
And
we
you
can
have to
treat
gain
them.
their trust.
Correct. So an individual from AdCare will be on the line introducing themselves. We start with basic information, demographic information, name, address. We'll ask what substance they're using, how long they've been using it, any history of medical conditions, current or past, that we need to be aware of, and medications. The most important thing for us is that if you have a medical condition that you're on medications for,
Right.
you know, we'll work with that. We can work with that, of course. You're just going to make sure you're bringing your medications with you.
And
so
what
that
happens if they don't? Do you supply them?
some of them we can, but we don't have a full pharmacy,
Right.
so we would have to order them through their insurance. Sometimes it would take a few days to get them there, so it's always best that if you have a supply, you bring your supply with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question, and it's a $64 question. Insurances.
Yes.
Pain in the Fosteris, is it?
Yeah,
insurance
I mean,
companies?
I think the issue is that we just need more time.
Is it better than it was?
It is better.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is better than it was. I've been at AdCare for 10 years, so I will say that the approval processes are getting better. But it's not the days anymore where you get 90 days of treatment.
No, of
you
course
know,
not.
that's just not there anymore.
What is the average now? Is it 14? Is it more than 14?
I'd say, depending on the insurance company, 14 to 21 days
Yeah.
on average. Yeah, we work with all commercial insurances as well as Medicaid insurance. So they tend to all approve different lengths of time, but on average about 14 to 21, which, I mean, really would love to get a solid 30-day stay. You know, we know we're not going to get 90 anymore, but if we
Yeah.
could get that 30, give them a full month of treatment before they step down to a lower level.
Yeah, you know, that's been one of my issues too, is that, you know, giving these folks not enough time to get into rehab as far as getting straightened out. And I use the analogy, it's like a mouse on a wheel. You know, you get on the wheel, you run around like 14 days, 16 days, 18 days, you jump off the wheel. And then you go to outpatient, and the next thing you know, you're reading about John that he overdosed on fentanyl on the street when he went home.
Yep.
And the insurance companies, I hate to say it, but they like to put their names on the race cars and soccer teams, and rather than give the treatment to the people who need it.
And we say all the time, you know, if it was as easy as just detoxing off the substance, then people could come in for 5 days and that would be it. They'd be all set. But we
Right.
know it's not that easy.
Right.
You know, you need that extra time.
Yeah. Are you seeing different layers of folks coming in as far as using the substance that whatever they're on, as the length of stay is either longer or shorter for these folks? I know like fentanyl and alcohol and, you know, opioids and all this other stuff that's coming. Xylazine
Yep.
is the, you know, the latest, and benzos now, and, you know, stuff is coming across the country right to Rhode Island again.
Yeah, I think the shortest length of stay we tend to see are the methamphetamine and cocaine use disorders.
Yep.
I would say for alcohol, opiates, and benzodiazepines, they're all around the same. You know, I wouldn't say one is more than the other, but methamphetamine and cocaine is usually lower.
Oh, when you see alcohol come in, is it strictly the hot stuff, or is it beer? Or?
It's a mix.
It's a mix?
Yeah. Usually what we see is individuals will start with beer, you know, and then slowly over time it progresses to the harder liquors. But it's kind of a mix of both. We do tend to see alcohol and cocaine together. You know, it's common that somebody will come in with an alcohol use disorder and a cocaine use disorder as well.
We're going to take another quick break. You're watching Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni, here with Sarah Hogan with AdCare. We'll be right back after these messages.
Back to Recovery TV with your host, John J. Tassoni Jr. Recovery TV is made possible by our supporting sponsors and our title sponsor, AdCare. Now, here's John and today's guest.
Welcome back to Recovery TV, and I'm your host, John Tassoni. This is my 100th show today. AdCare, who is my prime sponsor, is on, Sarah Hogan. So, Sarah, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being a sponsor. Thank you for being on the 100th show, and thank you for what you do.
Of course.
So, I want my viewers to know a little bit more about AdCare, you know, maybe another telephone number, a website, and then I have a couple questions for you.
Sure. So 2 telephone numbers that will get you to the same place, 401-294-6160 and 1-800-ALCOHOL will get you directly to us. And the website is www.adcare.com.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about the future of AdCare. I know we, at the bottom of the totem pole, AdCare is a big corporation. What is your vision for AdCare moving forward?
You know, the vision is to continue to grow, to continue to expand. We do have an outpatient program right now that's located in Warwick, 400 Bald Hill Road, right in the mall plaza,
Okay,
actually. So
Been there.
access to bus lines and all of that. So we're trying to continue to grow, to help more individuals. We're trying to expand that outpatient program because we are almost at capacity, which is good, but we are ready to help more people. So we're just going to keep accepting more patients and expand and make it as big as we possibly can, you know. So we're looking forward to just growing and helping more individuals. The build out will add the additional 20 beds so we can get 20 more people in. And then focusing on different forms of treatment, different things that we can implement.
Great. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for being the prime sponsor, and hopefully AdCare will go into my 4th season, which starts in September. So thank you again for what you do.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for watching Recovery TV. My guest next week is Living a Second Life. Mr. Harrington will be here on a book he wrote, Being in Recovery. So with that being said, you have a great week. We'll see you next week.